Welcome back to Defender's Quest. Let's play by the developers of the game. I'm Lars and
I'm James Cabin.
James does the writing, I do lots of stuff, programming, whatever. We are going to start a new battle here. This is, I believe, the last battle of Act 1, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. And here's a nice river background by Karen. And this is where Azra learns her second spell. And we kind of made just the way she learns spells just...
Mostly applied observation.
Yeah, just kind of totally arbitrary. There's no kind of like... It's not like one of those fantasy sci-fi novels where there's like a lot of thought put into the magic system.
We had all the spells decided before we started writing the story, so it was mostly just justifications for them.
Right.
Sometimes they're kind of linked to characters, other times not. I think that was something people expected. It's like, oh, so she'll learn something new from each one of her friends. Like, no.
It's like sometimes it works like that, but not always. But like, Frenzy is one of the best spells in the game.
Pretty much. That's the most make or break. Like, if you're going to cast one spell at a crucial moment, it's going to be Frenzy.
Right. Now that these guys have been leveled up, we can actually do some cool stuff here. We can actually upgrade their, get their second attack here. Oh, and when placing guys, a quick strategy tip is that you want to put your defenders on peninsulas and corners, because there's more surface area there. If you put, if you were to put him, like, say, here, the problem, I'll use Ket as an example. If you were to put a Berserker here, they would only be able to hit enemies in these 3 spots. Whereas here, he can get up to 4 targets. Here, he can get 3. So, well, that's a bad corner because it's an inside corner. Like here, he would be able to hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if he was here. But that's still like a pretty good spot. Probably would be better to put him there, wouldn't it? Okay, well, I'll take the 4 PSI hit and move him here. A little tip is that if you summon a guy before the first enemy wave comes, you get all of your PSI back. So there's no tax before the bad guys come for the first time.
So if you're one of those people that pauses and then sets up a giant formation at the beginning, you can do that to your heart's content and not worry about losing psi.
Right, yeah. But once the first wave has come, you pay the tax. It's usually not too bad. But it's also dependent on their current health. So if he was at half health, you would only be able to get 9 from him. But anyway. So I'm going to do a little bit of optimization here. If you don't optimize this battle, this is one of the ones where it's actually pretty easy to not get the perfect. So I'm going to have those guys focus on targeting strong. I'll summon Keta first chance I get. Slack will goaltend. It's usually sometimes nice to have, if you're like super optimizy, to have your weaker characters goaltend because they're less likely to waste damage, but they're also less likely to kill the bad guys. But here, we can see this guy is doing a very nice job of spreading out damage. I mean, this is the first wave. It's not anything to worry about.
He's actually getting beaten up a little bit there, but...
Yeah, hopefully
he's got massive regeneration.
Right. He is 1 level below Slack, so his regeneration isn't super great. So he might actually need some help to not get whacked out. Usually you don't start losing people until like the next battle. But here this guy is doing just fine on target strong. I'm going to go ahead and save these settings. Once I can summon Keta, I'll put her down, and this is probably the best place for her.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing here is that this little spot here, we wanted to make it so that we could reuse the same battles, but like have them be different. So one thing is that there's spawn points that aren't always used, and if the spawn point isn't used, it just turns into a regular piece of path. So here there's actually a yellow spawn point here, but it only happens on the higher difficulties, on the higher challenges. And that's where you'll have like water monsters walk here. We also needed a way to have like enemies cross water so that you could have like the concept of a river, but still have walkable part of it. And so if we just put a land bridge here, it wouldn't really look like a river, and that's where the little river stones came with. It's kind of a kludge of a solution, but it works. And I'm going to have Keta focus on damage optimization here. And so with 1 goaltender and then everyone else set to spread out the damage, it works pretty well. Now here is a good example of where fast-moving guys will run through a crowd. And because they're actually weaker, he could very well not hit them at all. So I'm going to make her specifically target fast, so that I don't get overwhelmed by them. They don't come into range much yet, which is a problem.
Ooh, that's getting close.
Yeah, that's getting kind of close.
Fortunately, Slack does a ton of damage.
Like, if she had been boosted, she would be able to pick them off earlier because her range would increase. You saw that little blue spot. Shows you how much extra range you'll get. But I can't afford this right now. Anyway, we're not in trouble here, but as soon as I can afford Frenzy, I'm going to cast it just for the heck of it. Yeah, this guy's actually taking some heat.
That's probably a wise decision.
Yeah, and I'm gonna zap a couple of guys around.
Oh,
no! We lost a dude. So Slack. And that tutorial from Slack, that call out is just to remind you that a guy just died. We wanted to make this big, obvious animation that happens. So it probably would have been smarter to put him here because this is a subtle mechanic a lot of people don't realize is that there's strength in numbers because the enemies will randomly choose from guys that are within their range. So if you put a guy right next to another guy, he'll get on average half as many hits because the guy will sometimes choose to hit the other one. And so if you clump your guys together, that's another way to protect them. And so if I had left him here, he probably would have lived because they wouldn't focus all their attention on him. They would hit Slack too, and then they would both just regenerate.
It's probably a little bit underleveled to be out in the deep end by himself.
Right, exactly. Now, a lot of people, like if you're just new to the game, Frenzy should just be where you put all your points.
Everything.
But if you've got a little more finesse to it, you can spread your points out a little, or even focus on something like Lightning, because having the ability to just one-shot...
Kill it dead now!
...anything can just be so helpful, especially because there's a slight delay on how fast you can spam Lightning. So here we actually have, we haven't introduced the Quaid at all yet. We haven't seen a single Quaid person aside from generic recruitables yet. But you just kind of threw this blurb in here from the Quaid Kingdom as kind of a teaser.
Yeah, we kind of want to just communicate a tiny bit about their civilization. And I feel that something like this is always more interesting than like the encyclopedia entry. There's like the Quaid Empire, which stretches from wherever to somewhere else. Been in existence for 700 years.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about this, or we'll just deal with that later?
I mean, it's all pretty straightforward. I liked the idea of having these kind of like sing-songy, almost lyrics for these sorts of quotes, because that's something that you're not going to get anywhere else in the game. So it was a lot of fun, especially after taking classes where we're translating things from old dead languages to kind of mimic that voice.
Yeah, James, what, you studied Old English?
Yeah, Old English was probably the biggest influence on this game because I was actually taking it concurrently with some of the development.
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, we're all pretty big language buffs over here. Like, I'm not as much of an academic, but I'm, as you can tell from my name, I'm Norwegian, so like I learned English when I was like 4, and I speak a little Spanish too. So I like languages, and then James has all the academic background. Oh yeah, and here we actually have, back to the game here, Ketta's mentioning her suspicions of Bakal early on, because we wanted each of the characters to have their own motivation for sticking together, and not just like, oh, they're all just getting along because...
Yeah, and Ketta it was nice to have like a highly cynical character that could raise questions that the player might have, but that it wouldn't necessarily work for Azra to be asking.
Right. Because like, you have someone who like belongs to like, he's obviously some sort of cleric. Azra, as someone from the Ash Kingdom, would trust someone like that. Whereas Ketta, someone from the downtrodden, semi-oppressed nomads, probably isn't going to like immediately trust someone from a foreign, place. And so she kind of voices that concern here. But then, being the survivalist opportunist that she is, she's willing to go along for the ride. Because it's not every day that an invincible zombie killer shows up. But she still has her reservations. So here we have our next town. And this is the town of Karsk. And so here's where we mention some other things. So she kind of like talks about how now is probably a good time to get some recruits. And mentions a couple things about Slack. Like his almost religious devotion to not wearing armor.
Yeah, that was a problem we had to explain because we had this entire class, and balance-wise, we wanted them to have no armor whatsoever. And it's very hard to justify in a story because it's like, if you're a dude and you're fighting all the time, why would you not do things that keep you alive and make fighting easier?
Right.
So,
I mean, players even mention that where it's like, our rangers can equip armor, but our berserkers can't.
Yeah.
And we want that mechanically. Like, we want you to not be able to put armor on them because we need to distinguish them from knights. Like, berserkers are your guys who can take it, who can dish it out, but they can't take it. And like, they're really resilient, but like, you know, they're vulnerable to really strong enemies. And we wanted that, you know, and we wanted you to be able to like protect your rangers a little bit for when you had to put them a little closer to the front lines. But story-wise, what were our only options for reasons someone wouldn't wear armor? They can't afford it or they're insane?
Yeah.
And, okay, in the middle of a super impoverished pit, and Slack's crazy. And apparently so are all of his little berserker friends.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, and, you'll notice there's a lot of weasel references in anything James writes. This is because he has many pet ferrets.
Weasels are basically the funniest animal on the face of the earth. Like, people say monkeys, but...
No, you should see his ferrets do what he calls it, the weasel war dance.
Yes. It basically Slack is a ferret, personality-wise.
Well, let's see, he's always taking things and stashing them away, and he's always stealing things, and he's always randomly getting into fights with things bigger than him, and he's super vulnerable, but he thinks he's this big aggressive monster.
I mean, basically,
pretty much.
Video game characters in general are ferrets. It's like you want to fight everything that moves and steal everything that doesn't.
You've been selectively bred to take on an ridiculously justifiable risk.
There was something shiny at the other end.
I must risk everything for it. Cool. It's a little quick tutorial about towns. And now you can, so this town basically is all about rangers, so you can get, like, good ranger stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and get Keta a nice, awesome bow. Just because, and, we could recruit this Quaid ranger here, Luella. Give her slightly less white hair. Nah, I kind of like the white hair. Okay, Luella is...
Yeah, I tend to only have 2 rangers in my party just because they'll be so expensive to field and then boost.
Right, that's one of the balances we have for rangers, is that rangers are more expensive than berserkers in terms of equipment and boosting. And that's because we've been nerfing them in every way we can, and they're still overpowered in the regular game. And so you don't generally need lots of armor for your rangers, but it is nice to have some. So I'm gonna go ahead and get them both just, like, even 1 point of damage reduced is a big deal early on.
Yeah.
And, oh, I should get a non-crappy weapon for her. And go into the next battle here. The Battle of Karsk. Dun, 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 dun. And we try to make the battle kind of look like this geographic setting here. So you'll see in a second here. Dun! And so, this battle, like...
This whole layout is designed to focus on rangers. You can see, like, there's not really that many places to plop down berserkers, so you have, like, a little bit on the inside there you can get some goaltending. But other than that, we really wanted to drive home that it's like, the ranger is pretty awesome, and you should learn how to use them.
Right, and I should underscore that Anthony, who's not here in any of these videos, he's actually the one who designed, like, almost all of these battles. Like, he designed, like, I did, like, most of the programming, and James did, like, the writing and stuff, but, like, Anthony designed the character classes, all the skills, and, like, pretty much, like, 99% of the levels.
Yeah.
And so, and these levels have been, like, slowly iterated over and over again. And so, I generally put 2 rangers here and here, and what I like to do is I like to cover wide swaths of lane with rangers, and at least 1 square at the exit. It's very important to be able to have a ranger switch to goaltending at the last minute when you're overwhelmed. I'll go ahead and boost her. I won't boost her because she doesn't have triple shot yet.
Yeah, we want to be able to field some berserkers here.
And now here is where you have to make some decisions. So if you put them at the little hidey holes, these actually give you terrible coverage. Like, this only gives you 2 squares. Like, I can hit that and that from there. And here I can hit that, that, and that.
I think for Slack, it would make the most sense to hit him on that inside corner there.
Right, get that whole little Tetris piece of range. But what's interesting then is that basically then I'm not doing any damage until the end.
Yeah.
And so the problem there is that you get no feedback about how good your placement was until the very end, so you better hope you trust your placement.
Yeah.
So I get more damage here, but I don't know if I'm winning until the very end.
Might actually be worth, as terrible as they are, sticking our other berserkers in some of those tiny little nooks there, just to help kind of whack on people while the rangers are shooting them.
Right, and because we don't have guys coming from multiple exits, it's just as good to put a guy here as it is to put a guy, say, here.
Yeah.
Now, you can tell by the battle layout that on a harder difficulty, I'll have multiple entrances from those places.
This one gets so hard. Like, this, I think, was the first, like, higher difficulty challenge that I went back to that actually kicked my butt consistently.
Right. And since we have so long before the enemies reach here, it makes perfect sense to put absolutely everyone on target strong. Because that lets us just get the maximum damage through, and we'll have plenty of time before we need someone to finish them off, and we can just have that be Slack. And so, I mean, if I wanted to be cocky, I could even put him on target strong and just count on the Rangers to finish the enemies off, because they do less damage per hit. But let's do this. So you can see they're thinning out throughout each of these guys.
With that spread shot, it's always better to hit a row of enemies than a column.
We'll slow it down so you can see that happening, yeah.
It's like you don't want to hit them head on, because then the first guy in line will take all of the bullets.
Yeah, you can see here when she does her spread shot that every single one of them connects with something, and not a single one is wasted. When they attack guys at the start and the finish of lines, you'll sometimes see the spread shot, one of them go wide, and that represents a little damage being wasted. You want to avoid that when you can. Guys do have a slight chance to dodge, so that's what happens whenever you see miss happen like that. And we see here that all these guys are nice and wounded, so Slack should be able to take all of them out. Here I'm going to go ahead...
Red is kind of getting his butt kicked again.
Yeah.
We should get him some armor.
But we can't. So one thing I can do here is I can have these guys switch to weak really quick, just to focus on killing stuff so that Kared doesn't die. But now that most of these bad guys are gone, I'm going to have them focus on fast so that those worms don't get away from me. And then Slack should have a decent time mopping up these bad guys.
Yeah, even if he loses some potential damage, I tend to like having my best berserker right by my goal, just so that it's like, the things that need to die now,
right.
Even if it's not as efficient as possible.
Right, and if you need even more control, you can go into the accessibilities menu and make it so that the lowest speed is a quarter, because I can't fit all 5 buttons here. And that'll actually make it so that you can actually go down to even slower. And there's keyboard controls for all of this, so I can select guys right from the keyboard, and I can speed up and slow down the game just from the keyboard. So I'm going to go back and give myself the fast options, because I like to go fast. Okay, and so we're doing pretty good here. The worms didn't get away from us. These people were able to get stuff. Who should I boost? I should boost this guy, because, yes. And then, I might as well get some extra range from her, even though I don't get an extra attack. Speed it up a bit. Let's go, gentlemen and ladies. And so, when everything's the same speed, fast basically means target first. We're going to focus on strong. I'll have her target fast and get all the little worms out of there. You can see her selectively shooting at them. You can see her shooting at them in the peloton, to use Vertifon's terminology. And then Slacker should hopefully mop up. We're getting close to the end here. Might as well cast Frenzy, just because.
You little psycho Pac-Man floating over your head, and it terrifies you into more combat effectiveness.
Yeah, you can actually see here how much you've got left and what its effect is. So like tooltips on everything philosophy. Because I hate it when like I have some status effect. It's like Slack is now energized. Like, what does that mean? I remember like what was it? One of the Persona games, like which is otherwise a really good series, but like one of the status effects was like enervated. I'm like, WTF is enervate mean? I had to like look it up in a dictionary, and it means like, do you know what it means? It means like drained of energy and like weak or something.
It will be derived from, I want to say it would be related to inertia, and
well, whatever. The point was, I had no clue what it meant. Like I didn't even know what the word meant, let alone what its effect in game was. Cool. So. Now we can get her to get triple shot, which is brilliant. And here, I need to make some choices, because it's like obviously this is a great skill. Critical, chance of critical for every attack. And in a game like this, where you have so many hits, the little random chances kind of wash out into statistical probabilities. So, like, you're playing the long game here, so it's not like your standard RPG where it's like, you know, you'll have like 4 attacks per battle and maybe you'll get it or not. I'll give him some swiftness. And like their builds will be pretty similar early on, and then they'll start to diverge as I get better stuff. And here we wanted to make it so that in the early on, Azra doesn't just always win. You know, that's something that happens a lot in RPGs, is you always win. So
you win, and then you win some more, and then you win the whole thing. And it's hard to feel like there was any real risk or like a rise and fall for your character.
Or like a setback. And so we have it here, you know, where we have it so it's like, you're just discovering your powers, you're just starting to gather your little army. You win, but that doesn't mean everyone else wins. Like, you won in the sense that you got away.
Yeah.
Right. Also, we wanted to take something away from the player early on to kind of like make them a little scared and make what's happening in the story relevant to what's happening in the game. Because usually it doesn't matter. You know? And so one of the things we do is... I love this line here. Continue the pursuit to evolve reinforcements. This kind of gives you a little more hint. So one of the things we wanted to do is Karsk is burned to the ground now. It's gone. You can't go back. And that's pretty intentional because... And right now, players get like really scared. We did this with the prison, but nobody cared. And we added this...
the prison just moved.
Right, we add this little town here, which is Shanty, you know. It's like all the prisoners busted out of the prison and went there. But we wanted to take it away. I mean, you'll be able to recruit rangers later on, but we like when people see that like Karsk is dead, they're like, oh no, it's gone. But like, I needed that, and so like it's not just like, oh, some cutscene town died. It's like, no, that town that I needed, it's gone now. I mean, you're about to get to this one, and then you'll be able to get anything here and better stuff than you could get here. But it's like there's a consequence to stuff that happens in the story.
Yeah, I wanted it to feel like things that happened in the story actually happened to stuff you used.
Right.
I mean, once again, that's kind of it's an offshoot of trying to make the player motivations and the character motivations line up. So it's like something that is important to the character should, if possible, be important to the player. And the best way to do that is to make it something you use. Right. For like so many games, it's like, oh no, you killed my character's love interest, but I would care more if you broke my favorite gun, because that actually serves a purpose.
Which is why in that famous scene in Final Fantasy VII, where they kill Eris.
Spoiler alert!
Spoiler alert from anyone from 1997 or whatever. But yeah, where they kill Eris, it makes such a big deal because she's your party's best healer. If she was just the annoying sidekick for escort missions, like, people would be happy she died, which is horrible, but it's how it goes. You have to line up the player's motivations with what's happening in the game.
I can't tell you how many times I've just turned and shot my escort in frustration during those missions.
Yeah. And so here's one of the things where we bring the story consequences to bear. Is, a new kind of revenant. And these were originally supposed to be undead rangers. I mean, they still are. But they're supposed to be like little zombie archers.
Yeah.
But the problem is, it's like it was complicated enough to get Ketta's little arrows lining up with her attacks. And so I just cheaped out on these guys, and then we later come up with a story explanation that actually like works with our trajectory and explaining why Zelmir is a bad guy.
Yeah.
And so this battle actually definitely requires some strategy. If you're not careful here, you'll get overwhelmed, because you can't hit anything until it gets into range here, except with a ranger. And these guys have ranged attacks too. So you have to be careful. So
it's like, at this point, ranger armor actually makes a pretty big difference. Because your rangers are still like tiny enough to be kind of weak, and these guys are just going to be smashing into them.
But Karsk just got burnt down, so if you didn't buy armor, you'll still be able to beat this battle, but you won't be able to just cheeseburger it with ranger armor.
Yeah.
So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put Ketta here, and since these guys can fight back, it's important I have her target weak, which means she's going to focus on killing stuff rather than on
spreading the damage out.
Right, because it's important that I kill something so it can't hit me back. Next, I'm going to make sure to actually... These guys are both the same level. Slack has the slightly better weapon. I'm going to put this guy right here, and I'm going to put Slack here. And this guy... Well, I can't afford it. And the reason I put him here is he's going to draw attention away from her. Because if I leave her right here, she's probably going to get killed.
Are we sure we want that to be Kared? He doesn't have a very good track record with not dying.
Well, I mean, I could put Slack, but he's the same level as Slack, so in terms of not dying, their regeneration and health is the same. So, I mean, he could dish out some more damage, which could help with the not dying, but we'll just see how it goes.
I mean, this is mostly going to be drawing ranged fire, so...
Right. The other thing here is focusing on target weak not only means kill stuff, it means harvest PSI now.
Yeah.
Which can actually help you. So it's like, that can actually help you get a higher overall DPS because it lets you get stuff on the board faster, even if you're wasting a little bit of damage. So there's a lot of depth to this battle system that people don't necessarily see in a first playthrough. But you have to master all of these skills if you want to get anywhere in New Game Plus.
I actually haven't beaten New Game Plus yet.
I actually haven't either. I hadn't even played the game all the way through until like a month ago.
Yeah.
Because like I keep fixing something and then having to go back and like wanting to fix everything. Okay, Slack needs boosting or we're gonna lose to worms. Okay, everyone target the fastest thing. And so here's what's good about this placement is that they can both target this row. So when worms slip by, they can start focusing on that. Okay, now start killing stuff. Yeah, because I want neither of these people to die. And they would both die if there wasn't someone additional to take hits for them. Yeah, and so Keta will start focusing on guys that get into this range when she's targeting fast. Well, but she needs to target weak now because these guys are up here. And I don't want them to get killed. And yeah, so they would be taking 5 damage every time if it wasn't for that. Because they only regenerate 1 hit point per second. That gives them just enough of an edge to stay above the curve. Speed it up a little here. Put him here. This is a nice little meat grinder here, so that whenever anyone gets here. And I'll put him on strong because he's teamed up with another berserker. This will keep him from wasting hits on hits that this guy could kill. Actually, I'll make him target strong because he does more overall damage, and him just target first. So he'll finish things off and he'll spread out his damage as effectively as possible. Well, that's going pretty well.
It looks like we're going to want to... Excuse me.
Oh, these gold numbers here represent critical hits, so that you can see what your skills are doing.
Yeah, I usually try to have one ranger with just really high critical, so that even like basic attacks can like be functional.
Right, and I usually spec one with poison or bleed later on. Usually poison for the rangers. Like,
ooh, Luella's not doing well down there.
Oh,
Might
no,
need to
she's...
lightning some dudes.
Well, another thing we could just do is boost,
and we got frenzy, in the fight.
And then we'll just take out stuff that's too close. Because we have some spare under. Ah, Keta, no! Do not kill Keta! No! No! Boost an 8, boost an 8.
Ooh, well, hopefully they're getting drawn down to Hulk Hogan down there.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Oh, and also we put little flavor text here that kind of explains like the life cycle of the Revenant. The idea is that they start off as those little like zombie skeletons, and then slowly like whatever the disease magic is, like slowly mutates them into other forms. So this is a transition point between the normal Revenant and the little worms. You can kind of see that basically his head is turning into a worm and so are both of his arms. There'll be, when we get the big APC, Armored Personnel Carrier, kind of like splitter worms, you actually see that it's like 4 or 5 worms. And when you kill those, they turn into little worms. And I thought that was kind of cool, that there's kind of a unifying theme behind them all, rather than just being like a grab bag of random enemies.
Yeah.
So Slack, do we want to make him the double hit master? Let's do that. Luella, we'll make her, we'll start diverging them once they unlock the new skills. And then I actually want to focus on lightning because I actually am more likely to leak an enemy than to need just like an overall thing. So I'll do that for now. And then here, Keta kind of tells us a little bit of stuff. So it's like, that shouldn't have been able to happen because they were all immune to the plague. So perhaps the men in red had something to do with it.
Dun dun dun. That's one of our old 5 clicks and you're done cutscenes.
Right. And here we proceed to the next town. So you get to this town here, and you get a little characterization from Slack here. And then additionally, you know, you get all the supplies that you're able to get at the last town. We wanted to kind of like give a little flavor for Keta there with how she's related to most of the nomads. Here you can get some seriously good stuff, and there's pretty much no way you can afford this unless you've not been buying anything yet. And that's intentional because you'll be going back to old missions. We could probably go back to an old mission now and maybe try it, and that might be fun. For now, I'm going to buy this, and you have the option to sell the old thing you have. I'm going to keep it because I want to pass it down.
Makes sense.
Get a better bow. Do we want to get a third ranger? Not yet.
They're gonna, yeah. They get really pricey to be able to boost.
I'll keep that green bow for when I do buy a ranger. Let's see if there's any armor I can get. Yeah. So the question is, do I give the good armor to the weak person?
Luella was definitely closer to death that whole time than Keta ever got.
Right. I'll keep all my old stuff. I could have checked that box and sold it immediately, which is convenient, but I need that stuff later. And then we get the next magical spell. And this guy, we originally just had him here to deliver the first spell to Azra, but we later bring him back in New Game Plus for our crazy hermit.
Yep, and that was purely us not wanting to create new art assets for him.
But it was really great. You actually retconned a little bit. You went back in and changed his dialogue here to give him a little bit more of the crazy hermit personality.
Yeah, it used to be he was just supposed to be like the village headman kind of thing.
Right.
And once we had established his art was being reused with a completely different personality, we went back and ironed that out, so it all matches up now.
Right, yeah. And then the healing spell is pretty interesting. Like, originally, like, people didn't use it much. And, like, people complained that, like, you only ever use Frenzy and the other spells don't have much of a purpose. But, like, in New Game Plus, like, every single thing has, like, an explicit purpose. And, like, healing is just a great... Like, when you get healers, you don't need the spell as much, but, like, all the spells are, in Magic the Gathering terminology, answers to specific horrible problems that you have. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I need an answer right now. That's probably a good place to cut it off for this one. We did 2 battles. We're getting really close to the end of the demo content here. This is the full game, and we will do a full playthrough. But this is probably a good place to cut this recording off for now.